Right. Good evening, everybody. This is Guru Tom Pena for FMA discussion episode 339. Okay, so tonight we have a special interview with the have Guru Roger Agbulos,
Hello, guys. Thank you for having me.
uh,
Appreciate that.
Hyle, and David from the United States, and we have Guro Dragan from Serbia. So good evening, guys.
Greetings.
Thank you
Good
for
evening.
coming, and thank you for being in this interview. So I'm gonna already say my apologies. My internet is bad at the moment, so there will be some moments that I might be dropping or the interview will be stalling or something. So my apologies for that. Let's see how far we can go with this one. If not,
We'll talk about you when your audio drops out.
might move it to another day. Yeah. Just talk about
Yeah,
me. Yeah, that's
all
fine.
good stuff. All good stuff.
Okay, so um, oh please.
You can send the check
Okay,
later.
so good evening, everyone. Yeah. I'll watch the video first. um, guys, you know the drill. If you're watching this show, this live interview, please say hi. Tell us where you're watching from, and if you got any question for everybody, don't hesitate to put it in the comment box, and we'll do our best for everyone to reply to your question. Okay, so let's start off. Okay, so guys, kindly introduce yourself, please. So basically, state your name. If you want to say your rank, it doesn't matter. Your length of time in martial arts in general, in FMA, and in Lameco Astig. Guru Roger, you start off.
Thank you for having us. What a pleasure, what an honor, and to be able to have a chance to kind of have this fun conversation about what we are passionate about, which is FMA, combatives. It's such a beautiful event. Thank you again for having us. Well, I was part of that backyard group under the late Punong Guru Edgar Suliti way back 1990, and all the way until um, his passing, which is 1997. Um, and we continued on separately with the members of the backyard group. Sometimes we actually, in the initial stage, we continued on the legacy by training together and sharing what we have learned and experienced and reminisce our times, the good times with Punong Guru Edgar Sulite. But over the years, now that we have our own angle of, in a way, our continued journey with FMA combatives, we kind of have our own names of um, of honoring Lameco. In From my end, I have this Lameco Astig, um, and it is the reason why we're here is Lameco Astig. So that is my version. It is not meant to reinvent, but rather to continue the beautiful principles and concepts that was generated coming from the experience with Edgar Sulite. And the beautiful thing about Edgar is that he's focused on the applied aspect. So although we have five major systems, seven minor systems, he took the best of the best of all these systems to put in the applied concepts of Lameco Escrima. So from my end, nobody knew that he's going to be taken so early at a very young age of 37 years old. But our continued learning didn't stop there. But I would say that um, the journey is being continued by each and every one of us. But of course, again, with the unexpected loss of our beloved Punong Guro, there's a lot that has to be continued on based on those concepts and principles. Hence, from my case, I put the Astig aspect of it. The Astig meaning it is not my own invention, but rather Astig means it's a slang word for the word tigas. And Thomas, Astig means diehard, gangster or diehard or hardcore. So that is the interpretation of what I have of Lameco is a diehard Lameco practitioner. So I started 1990 with Punong Edgar Sulite, and and we're still alive and kicking. So there you go. And I have these guys sharing the journey with me. I think we lost the host.
We did. So we can move to Hyle, I think, here, and we'll go around the circle here.
I think before we do if I may, before we get to Hyle, the first Lameco Astig so far in this interview is Gagi. Maybe we should hear from Gagi.
Okay, Gagi.
Right?
Well, I don't know what makes me first. Maybe it's the order of screens on your screen, but okay. Yeah. Well, since we had somebody. I guess it was even yesterday. Our discussion revolved around buffets and stuff. My start in FMA was something of a buffet, more so because of the two factors.
Sorry,
First,
guys.
First, it was the availability or scarcity of different systems. Plus, next, it was my exposure naturally early on came from books and magazines, and FMA was just called generic, things that you can apply across the board and stuff. So I would take any opportunity to train and learn from anyone. And it took a few years for me to actually hit on the gold mine, which was in I think in one discussion with Dean Franco, we mentioned that you don't find Lameco, it kind of finds you. And in my case, it was certainly true, because I had no preconceptions whatsoever, no favoritism there in terms of what I didn't really know what I wanted out of my FMA training. And then when Master Ray Galang's book, Master of the Blade, came out, I liked the book and I tried to figure out a way to work on the material. And upon reflection, once I came up with something of a sequence, exactly, that's the one, with a sequence of chapters, I figured out all of a sudden it dawned on me that all the people I put like in the first 5 or 4 steps were Lameco, with Roger and Guru Balani and Dave Gould and Steve Grody, who's with us at the moment.
Yep. Hi, Steve.
Yes, and then out of a blue, I wrote about the book on a popular Blade forum of the days, and out of a blue I get a message from Roger, and then a phone call like overseas, back in the landline days, and this is where we hit it off, and then I started with him, and then we met in several seminars, several countries here in Europe. I hosted him on a couple of occasions and so on. And this is where I found my niche, and just to tie this short intro together, speaking of buffet, once I found Lameco, it became like my main course, main meal. Everything else now comes as a seasoning, like spices, but there is definitely you find your stuff and stay with it.
Okay, thank you. Can we have Hyle?
A second, real quick. A shout out to my brother, Lameco brother, Steve Grody. Hey, Steve, thanks for being here. Appreciate it. My kuya.
Yes.
Steve, I would say, is my kuya. Thanks, Steve. And of course, the others, Dean, hi, Jonathan,
Jonathan.
Stephanie, Vagelis, Glenn. Hello, guys.
Great.
Lalo from Mexico. Sorry, sorry, yours.
No worries. Hyle, how about you?
I guess back to your original question. I'm a lifelong martial artist. I've been doing martial arts most of my life. Of course, I had some breaks. Family kicks in for a while, all that kind of stuff. But I would say the last 18 years or so, FMA has been, consistently in my life. First, just as part of my journey, because I did a lot of JKD, kickboxing, did some combat submission wrestling, and all that kind of stuff. So FMA was always in there. But I always loved the sparring aspect of it, the real kind of interacting and actually applying things. It's just part of my nature. I was in the Marine Corps for a long time, so I like that kind of real interaction. So outside of the art, I wanted to put it into use. And with all the FMA I knew and tried, it wasn't until I met Guru Roger where I go, okay, here's somebody who's actually making us use it and try to put it into application. So we knew a lot of things. I had already been doing, I don't know, FMA consistently for, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years. And I thought we knew a bunch of stuff until I met Roger. Then I go, I wonder what I know. Because he actually said, okay, pick up a stick. And then you start going, oh, okay, all these things I know, they're wonderful, they're great, they're part of the art. It's great, it gives you your foundation, but you have to move on from that. So I guess it's been 11, 12 years now, like somewhere around there, that I met Roger. And after that, it was, as much as I still learn other pieces of art, it's when you want to apply it, it comes back to Lameco Astig and how you use that energy to apply whatever it is that you're learning, right? So that's kind of been my journey here with Lameco.
Nice.
Go ahead.
I guess
Thank you. How about you, David?
I got handed the mic here.
There you go.
I started martial arts when I was a kid, but of course, right? We all watched ninja movies and Bruce Lee, and who didn't want to fight with a sword or two swords or things like that. But I'll kind of focus in on how I discovered Lameco, just kind of like Gagi said, it sort of discovers you. I think in a way, you sort of go, oh wow, this is amazing. You just kind of stumble upon it. I was blessed enough to meet a gentleman by the name of Guro Bill, who was doing seminars, and one of the seminars was Felix Valencia doing Lameco. And once I saw that, and once the sparring, and once I fell in love with Lameco, and also Guru Bill. I was blessed enough to meet Guru Roger through Bill Aranda as well. So I studied Lameco with Guru Felix for a long time, and Guru Roger was once Felix got sick, Guru Roger was the logical progression for me, and I was really blessed to have Roger show me Lameco Astig, because it a lot of the things Felix could do, I could not do in real time. And using the principles that Guru Roger has shown really apply to anything you learn in martial arts. And it's based in science, it's based in economy of motion, and all those elements that the Guru Roger showed us through Lameco Astig has made all of our whatever martial art we did before it applies to, and has made us all much better martial artists. And that would be what I would say would be my journey. So
Yeah. Okay.
with
Well, I
Lameco
guess
specifically.
one. All right. So yeah, you have actually addressed one of the other questions that was thrown. That's basically what drew you to Lameco Astig training. But maybe on a different light, I'm gonna throw this question in the sense of the Zoom lesson. So I mean, I myself basically also like was invited to the Zoom lesson by Guru Roger, and from then my Saturday was just basically like a heaven for training. Um, Starting the morning with bakbakan and then finishing the evening with Lameco Stig. So and I mean, one of the things with the Zoom lesson, it's kind of hard because you're only training by yourself. But what basically drew you into staying in that Zoom lesson? We can start with Dragan, the farthest of the four.
That's a simple one. What makes me staying? Because I see progress. Just I get better from doing it, and I've never needed any more motivation and boost than that. Not to, I mean, that's, and then not to mention the fact that it gives me the opportunity to have great fun and chat with so many people I like. So, birds of a feather flock together. This is our nest.
Yeah.
So Roger
Well,
Zoom lessons
for
are
me, with I'll
Cute.
only for fighters.
oh yeah, no, I was going to say for me, really, I met Guro Roger before the Zoom lesson in Los Angeles, and I will tell you, when you feel his energy and you spar him, you end up with what we call the complementary Lameco Astig tattoo, which is usually in the form of black and blue. And I just watched him move and saw what he did and his ability to execute in real time. And I went, I want to do that. I want to be able to do what he does in real time, against somebody who's not feeding me, not in drills, but in somebody who's actually trying to hit me and challenging me. And it is, when you watch him move, it is a thing of beauty. It is a thing of beauty, and you get instant feedback on your mistakes, shall we say.
Yeah, definitely.
Hyle.
Yeah. So I was trying to see Roger as often as I could, and we hosted him a number of times to come up, and we would go visit him. So when COVID hit, this was an obvious progression. It changed things a little bit because typically when we went to go meet with Roger, he would show us, a few things, explain some concepts, and we might spar or put something into action. With Zoom, it made us really focus on attribute building, right? So it's like, is your movement proper? Is your timing proper? And just to quote something that Guru Roger repeats to us often is the thing that you know and you can't do is the same thing as the thing that you don't know. And he can explain all these concepts, and they're real simple: economy of motion, non-telegraphic, balance. Who doesn't say that? But the thing is you know it here, but if it doesn't come out in your body, it's the same thing as the thing you don't know. And so with the Zoom, it was an opportunity to get feedback and actually get corrected on how the body's moving, what your timing is, what your angles are. And they're small and efficient. Nothing about it is overly complicated, but it's efficient and it can be used. None of it is flowery, full of fancy movements, all that. So it's pretty simplistic in its overall view, but very detailed in the application and what the attributes are that you have to build to actually execute them.
It's
and to me,
so precise.
This is a weekly chance to kind of really hone those things. Even if you know them, every week you're kind of going, wow, how come I didn't pick up on that 2 years ago? Or you go, I thought I was doing that right, but it's not. Now I can see my timing's off. So it's been great.
Well, that's something the Zoom sessions show so clearly, is because on the screen you're looking at not only Kuya Roger, but you're looking at yourself. And you go, oh, I thought I was swinging tight. And you go, not so much. Not so much. Or you'll pick.
No, you're not.
And that was, that was something that Roger did as well, was he always watched videos of himself and study his own movement, which is something different for me, which the Zoom sort of allowed, I think, all of us to look at and go into and sort of take that from Roger.
Yes.
Take that cue from him.
And it's cardio. It's not
okay,
just,
so
it's not just base movements, right? When we do this, it's a workout. Right? Heavy, light, fast.
Actually,
so,
yes.
There's a lot of pieces to it. It's not your typical FMA session.
Yeah. Okay. I might as well start this one with Guru Roger. How Was this how important is solo training? And how would you progress from one layer or from one level to another using solo training?
Gladly will answer that. As you notice, I'm very composed and very behaved because yesterday,
Yes, you are.
yeah, yesterday it was like you can't hear me stopping. It's kind of like a mother-in-law rant, right? Like a rage. Boom, boom, boom. So much
Your
to share,
usual.
so much to the usual, right? Right. So much to share because it's really spontaneous. And why is it spontaneous with like instead of saying just one, I say 10, 15 things. It's not because it's overly complicated, but you must understand that the martial arts, the combative application of what we do is not just one particular element, but rather the result of the sum of the total totality, meaning it's part of the flow. So as
Mm.
Hal has mentioned about all this, about this, and so is what Dave has mentioned is about like when you hear me, I will talk about like the efficiency of your lower body to the upper body and the non-telegraphic function of your hearing coordinated with your body while moving. All of that, man, you cannot dissect and take out one and leave the others to it. It has to be the best of the best of
Mm,
all of this combined to define the flow because
mm,
it is all of these elements, I'm repeating myself, all of these elements that makes a simple technique powerful. So it has to go together. You cannot neglect one. It has to be all of that. So that's why when we have my brothers right here and even the ones that already stating comments that joins me in the Zoom in private is that they know me. I say that over and over, and that's my job as a coach. And that's what we see and hear even from the biggest moments in martial arts events, right? Like from boxing to MMA, when the camera pans up to the corner and you hear the coach talking to the warrior who's making 10, 20, 30 million dollars, believe me, and I'm sure you all agree, there's nothing that we have not heard before. But it's the job of the coach to kind of put that in the right perspective and where
mm,
when the fighter is under duress. So that is when we have, I'll say this, a lot of cardio. So we our focus on our technique goes down, right? But this is where when it goes down because we're running out of air is when I lift you because this is where the highest level
mhm,
of technicality has to be sustained because you are most vulnerable when you are not focusing on technique because it's under duress. So that's why it is important that me as a coach has to be has to bring it out to you, and you need to hear that and you need to see how the people also in the Zoom or in the class also moves so that your learning curve becomes much more effective. So you see, nothing that I say has not been said, or nothing that I have said has not been expressed and has been relearned. But you cannot take all of this information in one book and put it right there like an encyclopedia. That is not the way we learn,
Mm.
in life. We take it,
mm,
we
mm,
absorb it
mm,
one at a time, but we take it as a flow. So that is the reason why these guys are saying about what we do in Zoom kind of brings the best of them, but they have to be reminded as much as I am get reminded by the movements of these guys. Because I say to myself, if I move in this way, I'm gonna get my ass kicked by Gagi, I'm gonna get my ass kicked by Hyle, by Dave, by Stephanie, by Jonathan, by Kanu. I can say the whole 9 yards of all these guys who now has turned to have the warrior mentality of gonna kick your ass because the choice of FMA, especially a combative nature, which is FMA, is has to be in that warrior mentality. You gotta go for the application aspect. Let's go back to your question about solo. Now, if people think whenever I go travel, like even when I get a chance to go to a few times in Belgrade, and anywhere else, they think that I'm full-time military or I'm a full-time instructor because of how I move, and that's their feedback, and I take that as a compliment. But the idea, the important thing here is why I got into that stage, into that level of articulation in the matter, in the subject matter of combatives, is because of the attribute solo training. When you do solo training, it molds the body for that design. So therefore, the body becomes like an avenger for that particular, objective, result. Let me explain that really simply. What we do in Lameco Astig is reverse engineer. If I want to kick this guy's ass in this manner, I will reverse that to where it is breaking down into how the muscles, lower and upper body would react, so that I get the efficiency and the highest ratio of success for that movement. So that's what we do in our workout. We do by repetition. But to do that repetition, we support that with plyometrics. Plyometrics meaning we use certain tools for that design, which is much more uncomfortable and heavier, using the to represent the knife, the machete, or the ball, or the stick, in that principle. So when we do use the plyometrics, the muscles develop from the upper body, from here, from the biceps, the shoulders, the body torque, even the calves and the hamstrings. If we do this over and over and over, this becomes part of your definition of flow. So that question is, how do we go about with solo training? That is the solo training. The result really is unbelievable on that, because that becomes you. But we also take into account that level of solo training is not enough, because you have to try that in the actual application. The actual application being sparring. That's the closest thing you're going to go to reality. You cannot say, "Oh my, in reality,
Yeah,
I can do that."
that was fine.
Don't even push for that, because in reality there are no rules. Because you can't duck like somebody shoots you. You can duck like that, like Matrix. Although I try to train it, but it doesn't work. But anyway, so you try that through sparring, and it's through sparring, and it's through sparring.
Okay.
Yeah, it's through sparring that you have a failure mode. When you have the failure mode,
Okay.
is when you become better, because that is where we learn and be better and adjust and all that stuff. I don't know how it is with the other styles that they don't do sparring. I just don't know how. I mean, you
Yeah.
have to do this so that's the second stage.
Okay.
Anyway,
If I may, something that really struck me about what about Astig and Roger is you see the
All right.
art
Okay.
come out.
So, Hyle. Oh,
What was the
go on,
question?
go on, guys. Go on, David.
Oh, I was just saying that you see the art come out. It was just
No,
to add to
because
what
mean, from your perspective, so like Dragan, Hyle, and David.
with well, I mean, I think something that really struck me about learning from Guro Roger is when he spars, you see the art. You see it come out, and it's because of the plyometrics and the training he does that when he's training himself with something that weighs, I don't even know how much that sword you built for him weighs. It's got to be a couple. I mean, probably 4 pounds. I don't know what it is. It's like a tree trunk. So Hyle went out to the redwood forest, cut down a tree, put a handle on it, and gave it to Guro Roger to swing around.
thank you, Hyle.
But you see all these he practices what he preaches, and you see it come out in the spar.
Yeah, definitely.
How do you want to take it?
I mean, what was the main point? I mean, we said a lot of things. So, yeah, solo training. Yeah, the solo training is what we probably have more is what we use as drills. There's not a lot of 6 counts and bradas and all this kind of stuff in Lameco, because the energy is different, right? It's in the wrong space, and you don't stay there too long. It's great to learn how to flow with the stick and how to move with the stick so that you don't hit yourself. They're wonderful fun. It's a great part of the art. but you don't see that when you spar. You see a different energy when you spar, and if that's all you train are the solo drills with the double person and all that, they're great, but when you spar you don't see those come out hardly ever. And so what we're doing is focusing on the movement that you might see in an actual spar and applying those techniques you might know with the proper footwork and timing so that you can pull it off during a spar. What I see, what happens with people is they're really proficient at a lot of movements, but then when they get into a spar, the footwork's different, right? You're not doing a perfect triangle. You're not doing it. It's back and forth. It's this way. It's sideways. Yeah. And then their striking becomes disjointed from their footwork. And so that's where you say their art doesn't come out in the spar, is because the footwork of a spar isn't part of their base training usually. And I'm not saying everybody, because there's some really talented guys out there. There's some really good guys, but in the general masses, most people are doing a drill. I'm standing there, I'm doing some things. So when I give you forward pressure, you don't know how to deal with that. And so I think the solo training gives you those attributes in a movement that is more closely related to a spar versus just a stick drill. So I think that's the difference. But in order to actually get it and get your timing right, you have to work against a non-compliant partner. Maybe it's a little compliant at first, just so that you're learning your timing, depending on their level. But after that, when we're doing it, we might have a couple of attributes that we've been practicing in our solo training. But now it's like, okay, we're doing a friendly spar. Pull these off. Pull off the 3 count hits or whatever it is. But it's not choreographed. It's more random. So, but you have to get to that place. But the solo training certainly helps you build the attributes, because you have to understand the body mechanics. The body mechanics and movement of the body is so important, especially in a system like Astig that uses a small circle a lot.
Yeah, I'll chime in just briefly, hopefully briefly. Another big thing,
Dragan.
Something that stems from what's been mentioned, the cardio conditioning stuff and the mechanics of delivery that Hyle has just mentioned, is that when you work on your own, I mean, first thing about solo training is that you can do it whenever it suits you, and it brings up your responsibility, your commitment to your training, because if you don't rely on other people, but also there is no excuse. I don't have a partner, he didn't come, and we couldn't coordinate and whatnot. So you're on your own, so you're the only one responsible for your training. That's the first thing. So and then through the works on mechanics, when working on your own, there is really not too many distractions. And if you are committed, then you really pay attention. You film yourself, tape yourself, and then analyze and see what sticks out, what's in place. You start coordinating and building this coordination in time and space between your focus, your footwork, your handwork, and everything else. And then on top of it, it helps because you get accustomed to the way you move. So you get thinking about your mechanics out of the way by the time you meet with another person, whether it's for training or for sparring. And that way you can actually pay attention, focus your attention on the other person, on what is going on, so you can think strategy and tactics instead of thinking where is my foot and where are my hips in relation with my base and whatnot. And on top of it, besides the cardio and muscular conditioning, you also condition your through repetitions, staying focused. You also strengthen your ability to stay focused. So it helps even if you're in training or seminar and whatnot, because you don't have to deal with the deterioration of your mind due to the fatigue. So you can stay focused and learn more and adapt more and absorb and whatnot. So there's that too.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, that it's when you're fatigued, is then
Plus,
your
you've got
technique
Guro
goes out
Roger
the window,
basically
right?
doing the critique. He basically watches you.
But without the cardio, you get you get tired, and then your technique goes out the window. And I usually see that in the spar. People will start really strong and they look good. You can see their art come out in what they're doing. And then a minute into it, they start swinging for the fences because they're breathing for the, trying to gasp. And then they're so busy worrying about their air that their technique starts to fade,
Like they say in the real old school professional, catch wrestling, conditioning is your best hold.
Well, just like Jonathan said, it's muscle memory and reflex, but it's still a muscle memory under reflex sustained under duress.
Yes.
So that's a different story when you are really going for your solo training, even much more with sparring. You have to keep that discipline at the highest level, even in your last breath. You have to think strategically, because if you were in front of me and you are going down because you're tired and all this stuff, that's when, if I may, in the sports aspect, that's where I'm gonna kill you. And I'm gonna hit you, because that's an opportunity for me to kind of hit you or finish you. So this is a good discipline. It's very challenging. It's very difficult, but get used to it, because that's how life is all about. The weak gets eaten up by the strong. So it is good mental preparedness, and that's the way it is. So
and
you have to earn it.
Yeah, we'll just keep talking about this topic, but in our solo training, for those of you who are listening that haven't been in the classes, we'll start off with some heavy equipment with slow movements, more slow.
What do you call that? What do we call it? The heavy equipment?
It's
Big Daddy.
So, it's really to get the motion. You should be focusing on correct angles, correct movement of the arm. It's not about fast. It's not about, putting all your strength into it, but it's about over and over. It's like doing, we talk about, it's like doing your curls. You're doing the full motion, building the muscles in the right places. It's not that fast. And then after you build that up, then we move on to making it a cardio base. So you get the slow, really heavy type of thing to help you build your muscles and your proper lines and body movement. Then we move it into, okay, now we got the footwork. Now we're going to do it, 2 strikes in 1 beat, 3 strikes in 1 beat, 1.5, and then 2, and then doubles. And so we keep layering. So it isn't about I hit and then I block, and it's block and counter.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more than that. So, but we do that so that we get the footwork, the timing, and the hands all moving together.
I'll briefly address.
Actually, the timing really makes it. Makes it hard.
Yeah.
The timing, especially when you're using the Big Daddy.
I'll briefly address Glenn's question. When he says plyometrics are safe for those who can lift 3 times their body weight, it's not the death jumps kind of plyometrics. If you go through the literature and actually study the whole strength training methodologies with the people who are actually into it, there are a few kinds of strength you want to develop through plyometrics. One is your starting strength, and then second is the acceleration and so on. And in using the tools that we do, namely Big Daddy, and it's actually the way you do the movement. It's not so much what you do as it is how you do it in terms of footwork, very specific in Astig, especially when it comes to the conditioning and attribute development thing. So you actually develop, like Roger said, the musculoskeletal system itself to support your movement, but then also the nervous system that commands it all. So it's actually learning how to deal with specific conditions in terms of load and in terms of resistance that you use in training. Now, I'd like to say that, at least for my part, some of the topics that pop in and are maybe not answered satisfactorily enough, I guess some of us might as well try to do some of those quick bits videos that will later be added on the channel.
Yeah.
We have some.
So typical stick. This is light. This is one of these little scorpion sticks. It's typically what everybody might use. We have a couple of Kamagans, and when we first started, I was using these. I thought these were really heavy.
Yeah, it's progressive too.
Right.
To answer Glenn's question a little bit, you don't start with what Kuya Rogers using because it'll snap your tendons. In fact, it still probably would snap my tendons, but you work up. So you don't start with something you're not comfortable with or will hurt you.
Yeah.
You start with something that's heavy, like this Kamagon stick might be where you start, then to this.
Right. But now we're into this. This is guava bayabas. I don't know how much this thing weighs, but this thing is
heavy.
This thing is like it's heavier than an axe handle. And again, it's not meant to swing hard to rip up your tendons and your joints and stuff like that. It's more of getting the motions in all your movements, whether it's a 3-strike motion or whatever it is, and doing this with this. And then after you work out with that, do both sides. We do right and left. Then we might do something with this at full speed now, depending on what level you are. You might go back down to a light stick if you want to just work on your speed. But now that you've been working and building those muscles with the heavy sticks, this is nothing.
Yeah.
In fact, you get in there and you spar with those padded sticks that people are using now. Those things are feathers.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're very light.
Yeah, and also when you start with the Big Daddy, you're not it's when you do a curl, you don't throw it up like this. You slowly sustain it and move in a specific fashion to develop the muscle. So when you're swinging that Big Daddy, you're not really going for it. You're developing that muscle and those attributes.
Yeah, you're still trying to control it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
These guys really hit the nail on this. For illustration purposes, when you're doing this as the circumference of the stick, regular stick like Hyle and David showing, what we're using is this circumference, and it's very tough for you to do the grip because you can't even have the grip like totally like this with your hand, right? But the idea here is to strengthen the grip so they become strong, and as well as building the muscle for that particular design. And I've said this before over and over in my previous Zoom and in events. You see, one of the best example of that when where the athletes conditions their body to perform at their best of that specific objective they do. One is one of those things. It's the same as Michael Jordan, Pele, Ronaldo, Mayweather, and all the stuff. Their design is the conditioning using plyometric strength training for speed, power, conditioning, and all that rest of all the things that will help them be a strong fighter. But you see, if you guys remember, the audience, that is, that when Michael Jordan moved to baseball, he has the name and the brand in athletic, but his design was never for that sports. He didn't really stood out, right? He didn't stand out for that activity. He was nothing. He was nobody. He went back to basketball. He won another three other, as the best player in basketball. Why? Because of his plyometrics was for that design. So if you even think Wayne Gretzky, one of the best player in hockey, and I learned a lot from him, even from his philosophies and concepts, like you miss 100% of the chance you don't take. That's why you got to give it a shot. If you fail, you still win because you learn from the lessons of your failure. But you think Wayne Gretzky will do well in football? I don't think so. So therefore, if this is your choice of being a warrior, if in weapons combatives, I think you got to do the thinking of reverse engineer. Your workout should be based on that doctrine of you fight how you train and you train how you fight. So let's go back to Glenn real quick. So if you have this little diameter of a quarter size of the stick, like Hyle was showing, you can exactly you can imagine how we do, even if it's a machete base. This is solid and heavy, but this builds the muscle that is required for speed, power, conditioning, timing, and all the stuff from a regular machete. And this, in fact, when we use machete base for actual, we still use heavy ones. That's why it's important to have that visual and physical experience of the actual tools that will help you. And I'm gonna do the plugging here. Hyle made designs for me my gosh, it made me 10 times more powerful, more faster, even if I'm already 79 years old. Well,
Don't make us settle. Don't make us settle.
Yeah, it's also the plyometrics are going to be what helps you generate that force in smaller movements because you're developing that muscle. So it's not just yeah.
Don't get into, guys. Don't you think like it's gonna make you a badass just using that toothpick? I'm just gonna be straightforward as a drill sergeant. Hopefully, you look at me as a kuya. I've been doing this 35 years under one of the most notable, the Bruce Lee of FMA, Edgar Solite. I'm proud. I will say that without hesitation because he's one of the most open-minded in the old school days of learning the best of the best from the different systems out there going around the Philippines to learn a thing or two, much more the curriculum. But he was not only so much on the curriculum, but rather the application aspect of it. So that is part of the solo training that was asked a while ago. And that's also part of what was asked, which is plyometrics, and the body builds up to that design for speed, power, and all that stuff. So if you guys are into it, open your mind to, using heavy tools. It's not comfortable. It's because, and then the muscles aches, right? Because what do we say in Lameco Astig, guys? The muscle
You wish you had.
is aching, right? Because it is the muscle that you don't have.
Yeah.
Basically that's it.
Yeah.
So that's what's needed to be developed. So
yeah, and for those listening, don't go out and get the biggest, stick you got and start trying to swing it around like it's nothing. You will hurt yourself. It's meant for, slow training. Just like if you go to the gym, you're not throwing big heavy weights. You're going to hurt yourself. So, there's a certain way to build up to it. Especially with something heavy. Obviously, as you build the strength, you'll be able to wield heavier weapons. But don't go out there and think that you're going to whip it out. I've hurt myself a couple times.
Hey, whip it out! What?
Yeah. So, but if you get something heavier, you work it out. You're specifically isolating those muscles that are needed for the angles that you're going to be using in your spar, and building the muscles that are associated with those strikes, and then that's how you build the strength. But do it slowly, and then and build up. Don't try to go out there and try to start wielding really heavy stuff and be fast.
Yeah, I guess also that some people are confused, like Glenn said, by the term plyometrics, but it also applies to the way we do our footwork. Just to try and keep the long story short, it's about spending as little time as possible in contact with the ground in between two direction changes. So if you're moving in and out, you don't fall in into depth and then stand and then swing and then go back a few seconds later. So you do it all as a burst, and then those would be considered mild plyometrics with the higher reps. But then again, it's probably a topic for different session.
Yeah. Tom, we can't hear you.
Repeat, Tom. Tom, again.
Can't
Tom.
hear you.
We didn't hear.
He needs to type it.
Yeah.
See, this is where we all need to learn this, sign language. So.
All right. Let me give you an example for Glenn. Right. So, I'm just using rather a short one, which is we call it really the big ones and the heavy ones. We call it Big Daddy. So I'll use this as an example of a Big Daddy. So when we strike, right? When we strike, and it's typical of all FMA systems out there, they're good, but it has some disadvantage also, because we can take advantage over this kind of movement. The typical movement of a strike is when you strike like this, right? To us in Lameco Astig, when the guy lifts, especially with the elbow up, is telegraphing your move, and that point A to point B is much more further to the target, to the objective of hitting. So when you do that, we take advantage over our position, which we have done thousands of times already, is on the forward motion 45 degrees up front or 90 degrees. Because when you lift it, it's us is that we'll just drop this and hit defang the snake. We call it, right? Defang the snake, hitting the weapon hand. And in reality, there is no one in this world that can take a beating from a weapon hand, from a weapon, if your knuckles are all damaged. So that alone is one of the most important um, um, information that we need to capitalize on in our technique. That's why we kind of changed. I evolved as well. I started with Lameco, like hitting like this, but I got hit a lot, especially when you are being a student of from failure, and you embrace failure to learn and be better. So we redesigned, because I eventually evolved. So are my fellow instructors is Lameco Astig. We all evolved together. So using a heavy stick for our muscle. So instead of striking, lifting the arm right there, because we said this, I'm gonna go expose a little bit of our secrets, if my brothers won't mind here. Is that if you put a red paint here, right? Red paint here. And then every time you lift, I see that color. That means you telegraph your move. I'm going to hit you before you will hit me, because I will use geometric advantage. And what is that? My point A to point B is much efficient than yours when you're doing like this, and I'm just going to do a drop.
Yeah.
But let's get back to the plyometrics. Do you think that our striking you is just a touch? There's no way. That's not true. Why? Because we exercise the muscles building for the wrist and the arm on that coordination. How do we do that? We use a big daddy. So our muscles are built on that short burst, quickly, with the right power, and supported by the force of our, like Gagi was saying, the support of our motion going forward. You can imagine how much force is added even on a small move, because everything is taken into consideration with not being heavy on the physics aspect, but it is what it is. Force is equals mass and acceleration going upward or going forward. That's why we have the term WTF. There's no cursing here, right? It's not the curse. WTF is weight transferred forward, which is applied to your force. Without the telegraphic aspect of it, it makes it formidable. What a powerful concept. But it has to be earned, because none of these guys, I'll give them a chance to hit me. If they don't do it properly, I will hit them 2-3 times. On the same
Yeah.
token, I get hit also by these guys. But you know what I say? These guys earned it. And that's how our journey of our learning, is also give and take, So anyway, enough of my mother-in-law rant.
Do we have you back, Tom?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
am I back?
Yeah. You're
Yeah.
back.
I think what is um one of the best way to experience it is, guys, if you have a chance on a Saturday, just join us in the Lameco Astig.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, you know what? I hate.
Again.
I mean, I'm gonna say even Kuya Chad here, who is so famous out there doing seminars all over the U.S., is actually one of our brothers in Lameco Astig Zoom class.
Yeah.
And just we have already discussed this yesterday. Lameco Astig Zoom class is not about systems.
No.
It's rather about applied combatives, and that is the brotherhood of all of us. It should be about tribal and all the stuff, but rather the doctrine of one man standing.
Yeah, Tom, we don't have you. Yeah. We still don't have you, Tom. Yeah, and that's something else too that was really beautiful to me about Lameco Astig and what Roger put together is there's no ranks or anything like that. It's all a family. Our Lameco Astig brothers and sisters, and our Kuya Roger, and we also are lucky enough to have Kuya Ray Galang, who's sharing Bakbakan with us. So it's a really, really beautiful thing. And Kuya Tom there, with Lightning Scientific came in and participated in Lameco Astig, and also Kuya Chad. So everybody is welcome. It's not based on style. It's based on science, as a guru would say.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of arts represented in our, maybe their first arts or even arts they're still doing. I'm training in the campo, and we train with Master Ray, Bakbakin. We have Lalo's doing 12 pares. We got Lightning Scientific. There's a number of arts that are there. So whatever your arts where you learned your foundation, that great. So now we're learning how to create the timing and put that into the motion that more represents sparring and building those attributes so that you can go from big circle to small circle. It's not like we're always just here doing kind of small circle stuff. It really depends on where you're at and how you're drawing, and what engaños you're doing, or what your opponent is doing, how you're going to trick him into coming in. But I always say what we learned with Astig really, to me, is a master class in closing that gap, because it doesn't matter what fighting art you are. It's like, how do I close the gap?
Right.
We're out there. How do I get in so that I can do what I need to do? And what we're focusing on is kind of that part. A lot of stuff can happen at Largo.
Right.
We could do a lot of crazy things at Largo. But then you want to come in and make that kill or that hit, it takes a certain skill to know the timing and be able to close the gap to get those hits, and then either get out or finish it, right?
Yeah. I mean, everything Guro is showing, Roger's showing is applicable to pretty much every art that is out there.
Yeah. In other words, it's about hot rodding your existing car.
Yes.
Exactly.
Let me put this in the right perspective. Even if it's a style of no style, but it's about applied combatives. So no matter what your background is, if you're wide, if you're telegraphing, if your posture on the lower body is off and all that stuff, because you can't put speed power in when there's something wrong in the design. And just to let everybody know, I call you out, right? But there's nothing, no agenda for me, but I'll call you out because I will hit you 3-4 times before you know it. And the same thing with these guys, right? Hyle, Dave, Gagi, when we sparred in that opportunity that we had before, I get hit because the same thing applies to me. But that is the most important thing. There's no egos here. I'll call you out. But before we continue, I want to say hi to Ludwig from Amsterdam, Netherlands. I had the chance to train over there. I want to say hi, Mila, and of course, Steph is here. So, Kuya Chad, thanks for being here.
I must say that when I do get the rare occasion to hit you subtly, and I earned it, it was because I used something that I learned, or you just did it to me, and I go, oh, that works pretty good. I think I'll do that back to him.
Yeah.
I give you the credit, but the comeback of me on that is.
Well, yeah, I rejoice in the one hit, but I'm not talking about the 6 that came before.
Right. It's the ratio is generally disproportionate, but.
But I think when I'm in, I'm healthy and my arms are good and all that, and when I get a chance to spar with. And when I get a chance to spar, just like I don't want to stop, because every time you get hit, it's a lesson. It's like, okay, how did I get hit? Wow, he came up. Why didn't I see that? Oh, I swing too wide. Obviously, I'm swinging too wide all the time on this side because he's taking advantage of things or he's drawing me in. I'm starting to see, more of his feints and his engaños, but still, he's so good. His timing and his ability to control the stick at that small range is so fast and so precise.
Yeah.
Even if you see it coming, sometimes there's not a lot you can do about it. So what we're trying to do is learn what he's doing and emulate some of those things, because it's obvious that we're swinging wider than we need to.
Yeah.
And it's not that we don't know that we shouldn't be swinging wide. It's that, we just haven't built those attributes that we need to make it tight. And it's the same when I go and I spar in public. It's the same thing, where we were talking about this yesterday. I'm always telling people, you're swinging too wide. Yeah. You're making it easy for me, because when I see you do this, or I see you swing this way or come up here, that's my cue. Because if you do this once, you're going to do it again. Yeah. And if I can make you swing wide, or if I can make you overswing and go too wide, then that's my form of engaño. I'm going to make you overswing, and then I'm going to take advantage of it, right? And so it's keeping it tight. Not always, because,
Again, I'll address this. This is a good question. Again, from Glenn. Glenn is our muse today. It's about, do you have to practice with Big Daddy every day and then taper off? Shortly, no. It really depends on how long, how many reps and sets you do with it in a single session. if you only do it once a week, like during a Zoom class when Roger requires you, then you'll never grow into it. It will be just as difficult every time. So I try to do it at least one or two more sessions during a week. So, but not every day. Like maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Really depends on the weight and the length and where you're at the given time. But maybe not a full session. Like on the Zoom. Sometimes we'll spend the whole hour session swinging the big D. But I'll do like a couple more during the week, doing for 15 minutes, and then it's okay. It stays with you.
And when we have different weights, that's why sometimes maybe I'm sore from the workout. I might go down to a Kamagan, or something like that. But it's something a little bit more heavier than your typical light rattan. I mean, there's some pretty dense rattan. So if you got something that's pretty heavy, that would be like a minimal, right? So you can change it up, but still it should be not always just a super light, stick.
Yeah, and also a suggestion. I mean, not on a side note, besides the Big Daddy, is to go with a blade. Like it really helps clean up your lines and also be very precise with where your movement is. So I would suggest getting a blade as well.
This is where the E from Ben comes in, economy of motion. This is Big D also works for that, because you cannot swing wildly because you're going to rip your joint. So you have to stay condensed and really focused in your execution with Big Daddy. So it's also a technical workout.
Yeah. I mean, the same principles if you were going to the gym, right? You're not going to do, massive legs or back every day. You're going to have, periods.
Rotation.
There's some rotation in there. Yeah.
Which is why we always go back to the science of training thing. Yeah.
I think we lost Tom again.
Type it.
I see him. I want to start dubbing in Tom's voice as his lips move.
Yeah.
So we can really get back to the old Kung Fu movies now.
Somebody asked about us in this picture. Why? What's up? What's up with this?
I'm rebelling.
Ahead, guys.
We did it yesterday. Come on.
We'll do it one more time.
You're gonna make me pull my sunglasses out. I'm gonna pull them out. I want to be cool and popular and part of the club. If I put my sunglasses on, just tell me I will be and I'm in.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Cue the Blues Brothers music.
Yeah. One more time for photo purposes.
Nope.
And so that somebody
Tom
can send
needs
it
some
to
sunglasses. Come on, Tom.
America's Most Wanted.
Come on.
There you go.
You better have sunglasses there somewhere.
Gagi, what's up, man?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, somewhere.
Minor
Tom?
prescription.
Mine too.
Take your photo opportunity.
Can you hear me now, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we have you back.
Okay.
There he goes.
Late to the party.
But your heart was in it, so that's what counts.
All right. Okay. You've got. I think we've addressed Glenn's question over there. Okay. This is a question from Dean. Okay. Basically, like going back a little bit to Lameco. What makes Lameco methodology unique? Specific to also, does the inclusion of KI and also the Campo influence its effectivity?
Who are you addressing it to?
I hope you heard that.
I have my opinions, but go ahead, Roger. Why don't you answer that one?
It's not a matter of being unique, but it's a matter of being functional. My as a drill sergeant, who cares if I'm unique or not? If I'm gonna get hit a lot, it doesn't make sense of whether I want to be unique or not. So it's a matter of the concept of to hit and not getting hit is the main purpose of this methodology of backwards compatibility of reverse engineering and plyometrics and all that stuff. That is the ultimate goal, to hit and not get hit. And secondly, to be the one man standing. If it's about street survival, I chose to be myself, to be the one. That's there could only be one, right? So that's the mentality. I'm the one standing up for the sake of myself or my loved ones. So it is based on functional, right? More than anything, rather being unique or what, it doesn't matter. But again, to be able to be able to execute all those strategies requires all of these disciplines, right? Repetition. So now Guru Edgar said that the repetition is the mother of all skills. My gosh, that became my mantra even after his passing until to this day. But there's also a question of whether it's the correct repetition. Because if it's not, the repetition that you have for doing it 1,000 or much more 10,000 times is a questionable thing. If it's about errors and flaws, therefore you perfected the error. And what is that? Am I the only one that's doing repetition? No, I don't. I think everybody else does it. But if your repetition is very wide strike and not coordinated with footwork, ah, I'm gonna take advantage over the weakness because of your lack of. So um, in regards to the system, I have two of the favorites, which is De Campo. Uh, Again, Edgar's Lameco come from five major systems, seven minor system. Of the major system has the De Campo Nudo Stress, which has the power of the stick and the
Mhm.
forward motion of the footwork. We call Caballero footwork. And there's the Illustrissimo, which is the Tatang, legendary Tatang's, you know, formidable, you know, economy motion based on the blade. I chose the hybrid of both because I don't think I have two lifetimes or a cat with nine lives. We know is not true. So I took the road of the hybrid approach of the power of the stick with the small movements of the blade. And that becomes really, really very, very technical because you don't need to do so solve those big movements to generate power. So we require certain techniques such as plyometrics, but using the right tools. So our explosiveness in short bursts, becomes so powerful, even if it's only short distance. And that's the way to go with what we do in Lameco. So Hal, you want to expound on that?
Yeah, you know, Roger was talking about the systems that helped create Lameco. Obviously, Punanguro studied with some greats that we all know, we all honor for their contribution to the FMA world. So he brought those things together, uh, and and combined the aspects that he felt made him more of a full fighter. Obviously to me it was more like his JKD in essence, right? With those major systems being like Wing Chun to him, right? So with the compo is very much a Largo system. Ilustrismo is more of a medio corto system a little bit. I'm not saying it's completely that way, but this is the aspects that he got. The movements within the campo, the movements with Ilustrismo, as far as the striking, have almost the same things, but with different energies and different ranges in mind. So what Punanguro did is say, okay, these are different energies for different times, and he created a system for sparring and brought it together, and it was evolving, and it was still evolving as he was created. As as we can talk with people who knew Edgar before he had a system kind of codified, and then he met Topher and Kuyare, and they all started creating and really marking down their systems. But it was an evolution. So you'll see something in here. I'll just do this real quick.
Yeah.
So if you take something out of the campo, just say a broken and a flow. In the campo, it might be something like this, right? Where they're coming in this way because it's a Largo system. Their Ekis is going to be more horizontal. But they'll have this footwork here. I'll take the same movement. Maybe we'll do it with kind of, a KI type of thing. You might be like, same type of thing, but your circle now got more vertical here, right? this type of motion. The Kiri tertia might be here, right? Same type of motion, different energies, but it really depends on what you're doing. I may not do, an illustrissimo type of thing. If there's 3 guys, I might want to do some campo, but this is largo. But when we're talking about sparring a person, I don't know that I want to be really wide like this because the person's in front of me. I'm going to keep it here, and I'm going to be more nimble, keep it tighter because, we were just talking about if I'm up here or if I'm way down here or if I'm way up here, that's the danger zone.
Exposed.
We were talking about covering center line, right? Always be here in the center line, making sure you're not leaving gaps so that that way you're covering this area. Because I've got an opponent in front of me. If I have 3, I might not do this. I might do something a little wider or be more largo. But most of the time when we're sparring, it's against an individual.
Yeah.
This doesn't make sense, right? Maybe it makes sense when I'm way out in a bad language range and I'm going, F you, whatever. But as soon as I engage, anything outside of the box doesn't make sense. So you're going to change your energy. So same movements. You got a concept of big circle, largo. You got a concept of smaller circle, right? Being really tight. Same movements, different energy for a different time. So I think what Roger's done is taken that, closing the gap. How do I get from largo into that corto for the hit, hold the range, keep it tight. Oh, I'm getting the echo, right? Yeah. And keep it tight and come in for the kill. So anyways, just an example of how the campo and illustrissimo fit in. Different ranges, same movements, but how are you using it?
Well, that's kind of the beauty of what Guro really did was he took, each system that seems to have something they sort of specialize in or they do particularly well. And he just went and collected that all and created it, different tools for different circumstances. Whether, like Hyle said, if you got 3 guys, you're going to use a different tool from the box. So he created these words and paragraphs and put them all together to create this novel of Lameco, and then was continued by all of the SOGs in their own way. And the beauty of Astig is the broken rhythm, the broken strikes, that the half beats, that Guro Roger has really taken to another level.
What worked?
And if I may chime in, it's just what to say from what Dave just mentioned. The broken rhythm. I think so, to go back to Dean's original question, what was the key KI influence? That is, if I have my historic understanding correct, since in KI being the bladed style, there is not all that much focus on broken strikes. So it's more of a slashing going all the down very tightly and dynamically. So in Lameco, it was the powerful broken strikes from the campo merged with the principle of coming in really economical and tight from KI. And then it was the relentless work on making it functional, making stick be efficient and yet still powerful enough, which is where the reverse engineering comes from in this particular expression of Lameco.
Yeah. And I think something for us too that was really kind of amazing opportunity was we all came from Lameco, and we sort of went the reverse way, which is we had Kuya Regalan that we've been able to sort of learn the Illustrissimo and Bakbakan from, who has so we sort of gone the opposite direction from Lameco to the Illustrissimo.
Or the campo, for that matter.
Or the campo as well. Or both.
Yeah. And for me, the journey was to understand what were the other systems about, what was great about them. They're both great systems, but they're uniquely different. So there's overlap in the movements, but the concepts of the small circle, from Illustrissimo, the striking, the footwork and movement from the campo, they're complementary, and when you put them together with kind of the approach that we're taking with the Astig, it makes for a very direct system where you come in, you learn how to use the small circle of Illustrissimo, but you have to focus on the power striking for small circle. And a lot of those concepts are right in the campo. They're showing you how to whip that stick and how to get that. And so when you combine the two, it's really a great marriage of technique. And it's continuing to evolve. I mean, a lot of what we're talking about didn't come directly out of either of those systems. A lot of it came from Guro Rogers, years of sparring and figuring out, I got hit too much here, so I gotta tighten up, and I gotta tighten up, and so he's trying to save us some
tattoos,
some body tattoos by giving us what he's learned and what works in actual sparring. And it sounds like we're talking a lot of nonsense. Everybody talks about it, but when you actually go out there and you use some of these techniques and you see it done to you, then you realize that there's something to be said about it. It's not complicated in talking about it, but it's complicated in mastering it
and the precision of it.
Yeah, the precision.
Yeah, actually, and be able to pull it off under stress as well.
I think that Dean's next question about the centerline recovery is actually probably stemming directly from KI, because it's more about prevention or that you don't violate the centerline, and then recovery depends from this tightness. And because with blade is much more, there's much less margin for error. It's much more grave consequence than with the stick.
Yeah, and the capo is a Largo system, so as soon as you pass that and you're in that medio range, you need to make sure this is covered.
Yeah. And your sword's your shield.
Yeah,
as well. Did we lose you again, Tom?
Yeah. Let's go to. Sorry, I know. Okay, let's go to Dean's second question. One of my extreme admirations for Lameco is the emphasis on center mass recovery, particularly when you miss. Why, and how did Pununguro Edgar emphasize this?
I wish that the Guru Dean would show us exactly what he's talking about, because it may be from different interpretation, because Punungguro's approach to once you get hit, you're also exposed. So he's so big in that. Every time you hit either slash, thrust, kick, punch, and all that stuff, you expose an opening to yourself. That's why it's important to have different kinds of, there's like all cards on the table. So there's a lot of options you can do depending on what your body would be able to interpret fast and, like subconsciously. But we deliberately put that in our workout by, for instance, when you strike, you have to, again, put that concept of when you strike, you also create an opening. That's why we are so heavy as well as like most FMA, I give that credit to a lot of the system, is that on the subject of Hubad, you give and take, right? But it's not just give and take, because when you strike, you create an opening. That's why you have to coordinate the parry hand as also part of your defense as well as offense. So that's why you do this and you do another give on this aspect and you got an opening. That's where the Hubad drill becomes really an important aspect of training. So putting that on a higher level of response is also the Sabayan aspect, right? So as you simultaneously address the threat going towards you, you're also hitting back. So that is one aspect of a response. So I'm going to take this literally. So I know for a fact that if we hit, when we have our body also committed to that, we have to take into consideration the upper body. That's why be careful about those guys in the Illustrissimo, because they are so into the lutang aspect. But when they do the lutang, if you hit them, they will put their leg out. But be wary of your the body, the high level,
Right.
because you will be exposed to their bug sack. So us being part of Lameco, it is the Decampo, Illustrissimo, and all the other systems get us to that understanding in our practice of our repetition to be not careless. So how do we go about that? Is that when you strike, when you go too deep and so committed to your long, geometries of breaking the iconic motion, you are prone to get hit. So as we strike centrally, on an ongoing strike, is that we take into the effect the horizontal striking of strikes. You hit the strike, you strike the hit. So it's not about like just the simple concept of block. To us, it's not just a simple block, but rather an interception. Because at least the big difference between the block and an interception is that you block, and so what's next? But interception base is when you intercept, when you strike the hits, when you hit the strike, you have to finish, because that is the definition of interception. That's why with us in Lameco, we always go for multiple striking with the understanding of good techniques in the striking aspect. I'm going to make a big difference here, a distinction of how it could be effective in terms of using interception to the follow-up. If we go about watching a lot of the YouTube, and I appreciate these guys, sharing their experience and all this stuff, but I can learn from this. I can learn from their failure or their experience of being able to do it successfully. But one thing I will tell you right now is that the FMA system has to kind of encourage a lot of the broken strikes, because the broken strike is the biggest, one of the most effective way for an interception. So if I get hit here, I intercept, that is halfway geometrically to the target, either to the hand or to the head, the temple, the shoulder, the neck, whatever, because it's halfway, boom, finish. So this is the big difference. When you're doing full circle, look at the tip. You block, certainly you didn't get hit because you intercept. Well, you hit the strike, but with that full circle going for the rotation, it takes longer time for point A to point B for that thing to hit back the hand, the shoulder, the left temple, or what have you, because of that geometric thing that you do the follow-up. So I would suggest that you put into your workout a lot of this broken strike, because who's the biggest proponent of interception? Sifu Lee, right? Bruce Lee, because that is one hell of an effective concept, but it's not an ownership of Bruce Lee, but rather something that is effective and being used by all the other systems and martials throughout the history of combatives.
Yeah.
But we just have to put the emphasis in our training so it becomes second nature, right? So therefore, instead of all the time you go in for flow, again, it takes rotation, it takes longer from point A to point B. That's one. And the effect of that is you lose the element of surprise, because again, it's longer. If I am hit, you block me and you go in for interception, I see that round, I will respond before you can even hit me. So that is one of the pitfalls of exclusively just going for rotation. And one more thing, you lose the element of surprise. When it is seen because of that rotation, it is not going to be successful if there's no element of surprise.
Yeah, and again, this is one of those things that we can say all this all day long, and people understand it mentally, that they can do that. But if you can't pull off this tightness in your spar, it doesn't matter that you know it. And I see it in my spars too. Sometimes I look and I go, I'm over swinging. You've seen angle one coming, and you wanna meet it force on force, so you do this. Or where am I? Right? So if I could be here, my stick is right there, so my return is really small here. Versus if I'm here, I got to come all the way around. And you go, yeah, this is really fast, but that's faster. So if you're doing it this way, and you got the power, you need to. This is the Big Daddy training, right? Where you got the power to be able to intercept those things here and come in and hit, versus coming here and then hitting. As soon as you see that, then you start going, okay, how do I take advantage of these big swings? right? Somebody's going, so you go back to them and you're here instead of here and then coming in, or letting it pass, intercept and hit. So this is where we're talking about taking, to answer Dean's question about covering the center line. This is creating the opening. That's creating the opening, right? So anytime it goes here where the tip is going back, and I can say this all day long because you won't be able to do it if you don't have the muscles to control the stick.
Swing.
And it's hard, right? So you come in, keep it tight, keep it here, and then you'll be able to come in, whether it's, you know, reaching out or keeping it tight or closing the gap. And a lot of times once you get that first hit, you intercept and you come forward, people don't know how to deal with the forward pressure. So this is how you keep it tight and you cover center line. But you got to build the strength and attributes in the arm to be able to operate in this space. Otherwise, it won't work. Even if you know it mentally.
Yeah. And as the final element, what people who have attended my classes when I was filling in for Guru Roger on Zoom, I'm also big in terms of center line recovery on orderly retreat.
Yes.
Cutting the distance, going in and finishing it up.
You need to retreat
finish as you go out. I'm big on stabs. In that regard, as you go in, whatever you've done tight, but on the way out, I just like to put a stab in. Whether it's with whether it's a stick or a knife, just to cover this line.
Cover.
Actually, it's this plane plus the distance to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that
Are we addressing Dean's because I don't want to get hit by Dean. I'm not addressing Dean's.
No.
Go ahead. I was going to say, I think that specific concept is very much illustrisimo.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A small circle here in the front. Right.
Well, after all, what Master Ray teaches, his COP acronym, COP, is control the center, occupy the center, protect the center. So obviously, this sort of built-in mantra comes from that background, from the illustration.
Yeah. That's very true. So whether you're going forward and going backwards, retreating, you have to cover. You still have to make sure that you're covering it.
Yeah, I would have liked to have seen Tatang in his 30s or something like that. It's great to have the old footage, but I would have liked to have seen him in his prime when he was actually, banging people around. That I think we would have had a little bit different illustration today. I don't know, but
Sure. Okay. Oh, right. Yep. Dean said, the broken strike being used for recovery.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's actually easier to change the timing as well.
We all talk, including me. We all talk, interception. But show me how you move in real time between non-compliant. Show me how you move. Not necessarily that I'm challenging you. That is stupid and ridiculous, as we are all brothers in this journey. But if you show me even your best fighters not being able to, this is all talk, So to know and not to do, just like what Hyle said, from what we always say this in our training, to know but not being able to do is not knowing. It's like arithmetic. 1 times 0 equals 0. So if we are going to do the application aspect of combatives, put that in your movement. And let's stop all this discussion. We are all grandmasters in discussion, including me. But we are all students. We are all students in the movement. And that is where I am the biggest student. And I try to earn this with plyometrics repetition from my failure. I watched my move way back 1990. Can you imagine that? Thousands of times. It just gave me one wisdom after another. Not that the wisdoms that I've covered before is always of perfection. No, I just still got hit. I probably got hit by all of these guys combined here. But you know what? I'm not ashamed and afraid to say that. But I got to my knowledge and my experience that I am given the opportunity to share because of that journey. So if you say you do this, no system or style would admit that their system will put them 6 feet below the ground. No way. Everybody is a hero, a champion, an avenger. And I say this with all sincerity. Same thing with me. But if we're gonna talk about combative principles and concept, let's be together in one banner of being fraternal about this, because applied combatives is totally different. There shouldn't be anything about tribal or your system, mine, I'm better than yours. That's silly.
Yeah.
It has to be applied, right? It's performance driven. That's the key.
Yeah.
Yeah. I still see that a lot. I mean, there's a lot of systems represented here in the Bay Area, and I think people are more interested in chasing the certificate levels than they are learning how to be good, good practitioners. I mean, good practitioners means that I've moved up the ranks in a system that I find reputable or something like that. That's great. That's a piece of it, but also you need to be able to apply it. And I'm not saying everybody who does FMA wants to be a fighter or is going to be a fighter, because some people just want to learn the art, and that's wonderful. It's your exercise or whatever. But if you're doing this, then it shouldn't matter what the style is. Learn your core style, absorb it, try to apply it, and learn from people who are applying it, and be open about it. It's not about styles. No, when we have open spars over here, it's not about what nobody goes, hey, what style are you? I might ask her. I might ask, hey, where do you train? That was pretty good. Whatever, right? But it's not about that. It's like, okay, I want to see your art in your spar. If I watch a spar and you see a lot, especially younger guys, they're strong, they're athletic, all that kind of stuff. It's just a caveman fighting. It's not really. I don't see your art in what you're doing. So
Hyle, are you saying that you and I are Lolo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
the pause and hesitation in the answer says it all.
But you should see their guys' art in their spar when they spar. Right?
So you know why I'm so I am blissful when we're talking about martial arts. I am so much conviction, and it's truly a love for me to do this. But here's the thing, man. I take the direct approach. If I may say this, I don't take bullshit. All talk it's not going to guarantee me to survive. Right. If one hit from anyone is kind of like embarrassing to me, learning all this for so many years, yet I get hit. So to me, that is painful. But it is also something that's more important, is the attitude towards learning of your failure.
Yes.
So for you guys not to test yourselves, even in friendly spars, kind of
from failure. Yes.
I can't take. I don't know how you're gonna go learn it. And here's the thing. All right, I respect about your choices about whether it's for the art and all that stuff. But if I ask you, and you don't need to answer me here, but if I ask anybody, what is the purpose of you learning, Filipino martial arts, which is combative by nature, and if you say it is self-defense, it does not connect in how you try your training. Maybe I'm just talking to my head, okay? Pretend that you're not listening. In my head, I will question you, why don't you take Zumba? Because then it might probably is better for you than making that reason of that being combative,
you can run
but without that purpose, right? So, but again, I'm just talking to myself.
Yeah. It was something that came up to me. It was just like any other martial arts. Some people are just doing it because it's exercise. I get it. Great. But again, they may not be the ones that end up training with us.
This Tuesday, bakit?
And we're not necessarily beating up on people. We're trying to give people the right energy to make it so that what they practice can actually be functional. And that's it.
Well, and everybody here, I mean, that like Roger, Hyle, they'll tell if you do something wrong, it's instant feedback. But you can ask them and say, what did I do? And it'll be explained and spelled out. Like, everybody's here to help all of us become better practitioners. We're not, and that's sort of what it's about. Because as Guro said, as Roger said, one hit too many. If somebody's got a blade and I get hit, one lucky shot is one lucky shot, and it could be the end. So
yeah.
But I take Hyle's input that it's not just the purpose of being being military combative hitting. No, it's not that. I take that also for like my functional fitness. These guys know how much I do with cardio, full strides, working out, but in the aspect of application of that methodology in my movement. So I do that a lot too, and I've grown to enjoy this, and it adds up to my fitness regime. And I'm not always like "Arr," angry. No, actually, I'm a frustrated comedian for most of the time, most of the part that I do. But
Just a ranting drill sergeant.
I liked actually
Exactly.
something that Brett posted here. He said we're each but an accumulation of our mistakes. Well said.
Yeah, I think I was mentioning yesterday that when I go to public sparring events, it's been commented that I can hear people talking. Is why is Hyle coaching his opponent? I go because we're not opponents. We're training partners. This isn't a battle, right?
Yeah.
We're not in a war. So if I'm sparring somebody who's maybe not at my levels, maybe he's doing something, I'm going, hey, you're swinging too wide, or your timing's off, or whatever. And I've heard people say, why is he coaching that guy? Like, well, because we're training partners. I want him to get better, and I want him to be a better partner for me, so that I could get better. Right?
Well, it's fun and it's our passion.
Yeah.
And
like I said, it's not a fight. It's not a fight. We're training, even though it's free flow and we're sparring. Where it's not a fight.
You'd still probably be coaching someone in a fight. It's kind of in your it's in your nature.
Pick it up again.
Don't drop your weapon.
Yeah. So, Dragan, do you want to chime in on that one?
No. I mean, just like Han said, I keep repeating it to me, over the past, well, it's been 34 years in martial arts. Probably the main thing, the biggest benefit I got from it is meeting great people and making great friends. And it doesn't come out if you stay egotistical and try to somehow be above others by keeping them below. It's about raising to the occasion and helping people help you. And if you make them better, you get better.
Yeah. Rising tide raises all boats.
Yeah, as long as you're there performing.
Yeah, that's true.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. Are there any follow-up on that respect? Because otherwise, I'm gonna throw in Dean's third question here.
Throw it.
Okay. All right. This is from Dean. I have mentioned several times I feel Lameco does not get its rightful due. Why is that?
I'll go with it.
you want me to answer? You want me to answer that?
Yeah, you can start with it.
Well, maybe the guys out here should invite me.
I'd like to hear your answer.
Invite me
My
to teach.
opinion.
I will be there to show you.
I don't know. It's a matter of rightful due. I think it's since Guro passed, the international organization wasn't as strongly led as it could have been. I'm an outsider because I wasn't part of that group necessarily. Although I've met, learned from a few of the SOGs. It kind of splintered a little bit as far as central organization, but so have they all, right? I mean, Pikiti splintered, Illustrissimo splintered. It shouldn't take away from it. But usually, just like a lot of the SOGs, they went off after Lameco and they started exploring and building their skills with the Campo or Illustrissimo or one of those things to enhance. But they're still teaching Lameco, right? But it's not all under one umbrella. Maybe it's not as big and as strong as maybe it could be, but maybe that'll change. I don't know. See.
Well, but also the thing is, I would say that at the time when Guro Salita passed, he hadn't built such strongly promoted representatives of his work. But by the time Tatang passed away, he had already left, a few people to carry on his work,
Yeah, to carry on his
including
work.
Punong Guru, and not to mention, grandmasters Tony and Tufer and Quere and Mangioli and whatnot.
Yeah.
Same goes with I mean, let alone the fact that Tuhongahe is still alive, for example, promoting his stuff to this day. But that just, Jose Caballero passed his torch on to Irina Olavides, but there's just was no such thing with Lameco, and nobody was appointed like general representative, whatever, simply because Punuguru was taken away from us at such a young age, and it was all prior to social media, internet, whatnot. Plus, one of the things that I like Lameco so much is that most of the SOGs actually focused on doing what they did without the need to promote and do other stuff. So I mean, they did. Some of them did, like Guru Mark Denny. He keeps repeating just how much Edgar Solita had influence on Dog Brothers and whatnot. But then again, he was already flying his own colors in terms of Dog Brothers. So and then I don't know. Maybe basically because just for the longest time, all the major teachers of Lameco were actually in one place, which is in California. It was the network wasn't as spread as it should be.
Well, the thing is, probably the others are much more aggressive and effective in using social media and some other forms of publicity and promotion for their interests. But it's a good thing, you gotta go out there and tell people who you are, where you are, and all that stuff. But for the most part, in the Lameco backyard group, we didn't. We're not into the grabbing. I am the anointed leader of Lameco. None of us actually, if you've really
Yeah.
noticed, with all of this backyard group, my peers, right? None of us uh, would address ourselves as master or grandmaster. So we are never into that ranking aspect of it. We are not too. Maybe we should do more on the promotion of we are still alive and kicking ass, in our own little ways. And the same thing that goes to the next generation. While I'm here
Yeah.
in Los Angeles, Gagi is in Serbia, in Eastern Europe, and you got Hyle and here in Northern California, and you got Dave here in also
Somewhere in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And soon Stephanie will be in the UK.
exactly. So is Jonathan, and so is Bajel is in Athens. We got a lot more of these guys. Kanoa in Utah. So it's a matter of did you actually even ask? If you ask, you'll get the answer. But I'll tell you this: we're not into the public promotion, but I think we should, right? Because I think social media helps, and it's not need. It doesn't need to be costly and all the stuff. We just have to put the word out there. But guys, if there's any one of you interested about the Zoom, please send me a message, send me an email, or any one of us, because we gladly would have you around us, and maybe we can address some other elements or factors that we have not touched base on all that stuff. But otherwise, we are very heavy on conditioning and plyometrics and repetition based on reverse engineered of what we think is best. And again, this is based on experience of sparring. So to know and not do is not knowing. So just send us a message. Yeah, any one of us.
Yeah. I just have to read some of the comments, but this is from the
Hey, Saji.
from the previous topic. Developing and improving your partner means you have a better and more challenging training partner. As iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Yep. Kunia said, Astig members help make each other better so we can make ourselves better. They've reached out to me and I have reached out to help others.
Danny Terrell, training and sparring isn't about winning, but rather about learning your weakness.
Yes.
Proving.
And so let me add to that, and I'll cover this about the sharing aspect of it. You know, there's a New York bestseller about the book on sharing, and this is actually see this, to give and take. So when you share, when you give that energy out, it really enhances more of learning deeper, like more. It The reward is outstanding. It's unbelievable. It says here, while helping others drives our success. It's written in a bestseller book, because when you teach you also learn, so that's one of the most beautiful things. And we talk about repetitive motion, all the stuff, um it has to have a purpose. Otherwise it doesn't make sense of what you're repeating if you don't find the purpose in doing that. One
Yeah.
of the purpose could be simply about deflecting or blocking an intercept or getting away so that you live another day. That is the purpose of all of this repetition. So
Mm.
it comes out with a lot of the books, so we can learn from some of these books that I actually would get. I am a big student of a lot of things: purpose, meaning, and passion. And that's why when I talk like this, I am like, "Grrr," because I learn from so many of all these books. I am forever a student. But here's the deal, man. To know and
Always be
not know is
learning.
not knowing. You gotta do that in actual repetition, in actual sharing, and even on trials, which is sparring. If I get
Mm.
hit, I am one day better than I was yesterday. Put that in your, in your mantra every day. So in that manner of whether you win or lose, just like Danny was saying, you still learn. You learn. Either you win, you lose, you learn. So therefore, you win all the
Yeah,
time.
it's all about
And
learning.
exactly. How what do you guys can say about that? My brothers, come on, expound my rants.
No matter how much, no matter
Rant
how
more.
long I've done FMA or Lameco or anything, I feel like I've just scratched the surface.
Yes. Always.
It's something that, I mean, FMA in general, right? There's a bullwhip system out there. Like, I saw Indiana Jones. I want to learn bullwhip, but I feel like there's just always so much more to learn, especially, we're lucky to have, Guru Roger, who, evolved Punang Guru's art because he was taken too soon. And all of the, something that I find really, really fascinating is how all of the SOG members that I've had the pleasure of meeting or lucky enough to train with, how they evolve that art,
Mm.
independently as well, because most of them continued on and learned. Guru Roger went towards the science, the real scientific aspect, which is something that I think is truly unique and special. I've
The
never seen anybody
biomechanics
else
of it.
approach it in that fashion. I was lucky enough to train with Felix, who continued on in C-Lot and shoot fighting and sort of evolve the ground. And then we had Guru Bud, who would train actually in Bill's garage, who brought C-Lot element to it as well. And then you have Guru Dino, who continued on in Illustrissimo, and all these guys who had the functional aspect continued to evolve the art in their own expression. And I will say the similarity that goes back to Lameco is the mentality and the energy. If you have the opportunity to experience, Guru Roger's energy or any of the original SOG guys, it is a different feeling than I've ever felt in the FMA systems that I've also experienced.
I think I've heard Dean say this a bunch of times too. For when he was training with Dave, it's the energy that he got from Dave, and like this David was saying, you get it whenever you're around one of the original guys that trained with Punang Guro. The way he trained them, they all have this like in your face energy when you're feeling them.
Show me. There you go. It's
me.
it's the intent. Even if they're feeding you, they're and even if they're going soft and it's all controlled, there is an intent behind that strike.
Yeah, I think the intent is probably the key word here, because the intent also goes back to what Roger said. You have to have the purpose behind what you're doing. I mean, both Master Ray and also Coach Tom Sotis say, that if you don't have the proper intent, the proper energy behind your reps, it's just calisthenics.
Exactly.
It doesn't come natural. I mean, even like I have some students that what we're focusing on is that intent. You know, how do you have that energy? Great, you know the strikes, but there's no intent, or the intent is with the wrong timing or the wrong wrong energy at the wrong time or whatever. So that just that piece of it, which isn't a specific strike or anything, it's like how you enter into it, and how you give your energy. It's something that has to be worked on, and it's hard to explain sometimes because you go, you're not giving me the, and they're like, what do you mean? I'm doing the strike like you said. Yeah, but you're not giving me a a real energy that you should be. You should be, like you say, what weight transfer forward, right?
Yeah.
You're giving me this forward energy, and you should be moving me back.
But maybe that's also one of the reasons why Lameco is not more popular than it is, because it takes certain level of authenticity in the time and era of living in images. You actually have to be behind what you do instead of posing. Lameco is not, I mean, the way I see it is not about selfies and LARPing and doing whatever. Not that I'm against selfies or LARPing. Well, depends who does it, but it's about being there, being your true self, expressing yourself through emotion, and it just doesn't suit everybody, or not even many people.
Just such a different energy. I mean, Roger sent me across the room through doing this, from the way his body mechanics. I mean, that's actually a good question for, Tom, when you came to visit. How different was it for you feeling the energy, feeling Roger's energy in person versus, having done the Zoom for some time before you met him?
Definitely. It was. I mean, with Zoom, you can only approximate basically what he's talking about. Okay, but when you do the drill with him in person, it's a different thing, because whatever he's stressing in the Zoom, you can definitely feel it when you're basically practicing with him. Yeah, and the intent basically doesn't actually always I would say equal with aggression.
No, it doesn't.
No,
It's not the same.
it's a very focused energy that basically he is basically like deploying on you. So it wasn't like, "Arr!" It wasn't like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
and I think you said it right. It's not aggression.
No.
yeah,
No.
a lot
Right.
of people though mistake aggression with intent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So which is
And
it's
Being
different.
I
offended is
read,
not always being aggressive. But I gotta say, Dave hit the nail on the head here, because Tom Among Us is a unique point. He Among Us is the only one who actually met and learned from Roger online first, and then live second. We all were blessed
You
to feel
all
his
did
energy,
the other way around. Yes.
in flesh, and then moved to Zoom.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's something that is unique when you learn from somebody who's learned from the original guys. There's been a couple of people that I've met that said they learned Lameco from some third party down the road who was in one of the SOGs. And yes, they were doing some of the Lameco drills and the movements were correct, but there was no intent.
Yeah.
It was just kind of like a simple flow drill. And you could tell just in their movements that it's kind of like you want to go, who'd you learn from? So because most of the guys that we know, we all have that, kind of energy.
Yeah, and every one of the SOGs, like I said, that I've been lucky enough to meet or train with or both, they have that energy, and it is a different feeling.
I guess that having trained with Dave Gould and Roger and not kind of also, if you ask what is my goal in performing in doing my FMA, is to be forced to be reckoned with, which is what you feel when you stand in front of them guys.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you feel it, even before they move.
Well, thank you for the accolades. I wish it's It's more. I prefer cash than the documents, to be honest.
Wait, checks in the mail? Are we sending you the check or are you sending us the check? I forget.
Yeah.
How does this work?
I don't know. I think we're supposed to settle
That goes to the
Honestly,
premium account.
Honestly, it goes back to what we're talking about, and every system claims to have the same thing, but it's definitely makes a big difference in performance. So guys, don't be afraid to check yourself out how you perform under duress, because it's the greatest teacher
That's
of all
true.
time. Because there is no amount of talk that will save you if it was actual, but it's also the greatest teacher. That's why I said I am one day better. Even if I get beat up, I'm one day better than I was yesterday. In this one of the postings here, and I will quote, it is coming from this guy. What's his name? He said it another way. Um, about his employer anyway. You did. I think.
Oh, Brett,
Oh, Brent.
Brett,
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 Brett.
Brett
Yeah,
Reese.
read it.
Okay, a way of saying this is I am only as good tomorrow as what I accomplished today, or I am only as good today as what I accomplished yesterday. I tell my employees this, also a also a job worth doing is worth doing well.
Doing well.
It's really nice.
Correct. So I'll take that guy as my coach anytime. So we are on the same page. But I'll tell you this: it's all about performance. It has to be performance driven, not talk. Everybody can do a good talk, including me. Believe me, I can do a good talk
Oh yeah.
because I have books about how to be a public speaker, and I got all these books, so that because I am still a student, I learn how to be able to communicate and break it down. So that's part of that of your journey, not just as a martial artist, but also as a presenter, as a coach, as a brother, and all the stuff to share whatever you impart, right? So that's putting it aside.
Yeah.
The most important thing is that you strive, you need to evolve, because if you get stuck with the system, that is also your demise, because there is no perfect system. So that's why if we take it really to the essence of the doctrine of one man standing, it is above all should be science, right? And the system should be over here, which we can learn from each other. But if we look at science, we're all brothers in that aspect of result, meaning one man standing. There could only be one, which is on the survival aspect of it, right? So I think we should put aside the systems and have this together of sharing what really works. So the purpose should be on performance, not this talk, because I can do a good talk. But let's earn this in our repetition of our discipline.
Yeah.
So muscle memory. I want to shout out to Jonathan and Kanua, my brothers.
Yep.
Hello, Chad. Love you, man. Of course, Dean. Thank you. Master Ray is here. You got to bring him up.
There you go.
He said something. Go ahead, guys. Master Ray is going
Master Ray, the man, the myth, the legend.
Exactly.
Who's been who's been gracious enough to share about-
Master Ray, what's he saying? Master Ray, what is he saying?
Okay. Developing and improving your partner means you have a better and more challenging training partner.
Yes.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's great to say, like just the last no, actually yesterday when he was doing his Tom was there when he was doing his European hub session back, and he was actually talking about he's working on improving his training partner right there before our eyes, so that the partner would present more challenge to Query himself, so that he would polish his own stuff. So this is where you actually you practice what you preach, and it was obvious.
Exactly.
And speaking of that, I think it's also a testament to what Roger has to accomplish and wants to present, because he introduced us all to Master Ray by bringing him to as a guest presenter during one of his Zoom coaches sessions, and then it became a standard feature. To all of our benefit, which is saying that there is no ego thing involved. Here's another legit master,
And
say what he has to say. We're doing what we do, so you can see for yourself.
And both Roger and Kuyere are just so incredibly generous with sharing their knowledge and making us all better practitioners. So I just wanted to say thank you to, since Master Ray isn't here, thank you to Master Ray.
Yep.
And of course, I talk to Guru Roger all the time, and I tell him, express my gratitude as often as I can to him. That I've learned so much. And if you have the opportunity to study with these guys, I mean, it's absolutely, by all means, you should absolutely take it. I couldn't recommend better teachers and better training partners as well.
Definitely.
Well, you are continuing that journey in your areas, so I think the same goes to everybody else. Please stop all these guys. They are a wealth of experience and knowledge. They only make me better because I don't hold back to what I teach, and it comes forth like 10 times more powerful because they're able to get me on my own tricks and on my own strategy. But then I'm forced to kind of get that to a higher level. I'm forced to, because these guys are kicking my ass,
Which
which
is
is
good.
a better way
Here,
to look at it, right? Rather than the ego aspect of no, let's hide this technique. I'm not going to show you. That's really ridiculous. I don't buy that because you know why? I'm going to go tell you straight to the others. I think you're not being honest to your student. You are milking them. So I hope that we put that aside and go for the application aspect, which we are all brothers. We have much to share from each other. And for anyone who claims that they have secret and all this, that's a lot of. You are telling me you're better than the gladiators who do this full time in life and death situation? I don't think so. So I'm just being honest about this. I'm being picked up right now. So just kidding. So all I'm saying is that take care of the guys that's under you because there are also there are people who comes to you with sincerity, with their resources, with their with time, money, and element, time, money, and effort. So I think it's best just to be truthful to them, and as well as being understanding of their growth, because I learn a lot from these guys. So
it's really important that you take care of your training partner, of your students.
Is there Kuya Ray posted? Did we want to share that with?
Okay. All right. Okay. I'm gonna read what Kuya Ray commented. Engaño, specifically trespasadas as interpreted by the two KI pillars. Pakbakan kali, regalang. Number 1, intention, to trigger a reaction. 2, main action, attacked. And 3, follow through. According to Bahad Subo by Grandmaster Yuli Romo, number 1, bait. 2, check. 3, mate.
Bait, checkmate.
Bait, checkmate.
Yeah.
It's like the Queen's Gambit.
And this is another illustration of how people take the same background principle and grow it, express it different manners. Just to go back on how all the SOGs built on their Lameco following the Punan Guru's passing. So, they all have their own expression, way of teaching it, way of transferring and passing it, just like was the case with KI and pretty much any other system after the Grandmaster's demise.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just gonna read this comment by Danny Terrell. There is the system for learning, then there is the individual and their intent. From there, the individual should be constantly evolving their art. Very true. As we age, our skills change, our abilities change. Speed leaves, strength leaves, explosiveness leaves. Therefore, one is constantly having to polish, hone, and adjust your training. Very true. You have to really adapt to all the changes that is happening as well in your body.
Well, I'm an example of that. I'm no longer a pretty boy.
Beauty leaves.
Now he's pretty. Now he's pretty Lolo.
Right. But thank you for bringing that up. But I will tell you this. the thing about the learning aspect of it is that don't even try to put into your head that you're getting old, because once you take that and has accepted that wholly in your heart, you already lost. Do you think the bad guy cares whether you're old or not? So to me, in every opportunity I go with my workout, I do the best I can, and I've tried to find, and I'm not even already trying. I find the joy in doing this because I'm always better one day before than I was yesterday, regardless whether I'm growing old, or no longer a pretty boy. So to me, it is the blissful act of doing this with my discipline is what makes me different from all the others. Yeah, I take it as I'm old. But you know what? I have to sharpen more my understanding of timing. So therefore, I am much more stricter and much more forceful in the application of performance driven. So therefore, I have to make sure, even under duress, in my age, in my status, I have to be more particular about angles, geometric, advantage, non-telegraphic movements, balance, and all that stuff. Does not require an athletic guy of 20, 18, 16 years old doing the track and field for their body to be. It doesn't have to be in that arena, because my body is not going to be in that. I can do hapkidos or taekwondo, roundhouse kick 10 feet high. I can't do that, but I can have control over much more understanding of the economy of motion, non-telegraphic, balance through motions with plyometrics. So, therefore, that leads you to a better understanding of timing when you have this still with you. But to tell me that I'm already, no, I'm not saying about, I'm not addressing you, but to take me into this aspect, I'm already old. No way. Um,
Well,
How
I
about you
think you know
guys?
this is not,
the
let me
honing
just finish.
the
Let me just
honing
finish
of the
because
skill.
this is not a 20K run. This is not a 10-hour Ironman competition. It is we're talking about when we're talking about applied combatives. It is short bursts of on the application of sparring. Sure, a short burst, much more in self defense. It's not Ironman 10 hours competition. I may not have the endurance, but I can do short bursts in which I would design myself, reverse train, reverse engineer to have the highest ratio of success.
Yeah. Yeah, as a young person starting out, you're relying on your strength and your speed and your quick twitch muscles or whatever. But that's not
Mm.
skill in your art. That's just youth, right? So
Yeah.
from day one, you should be trying to build that economy of motion and understanding of the angles to be at an advantage, regardless if you have those things. Obviously, we some of us get sick, we get injured, that type of thing. But I'm not young anymore. I'm 59. So, but I'm still out there sparring 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and doing my thing. And there's guys out there that are super fast. So then I go, oh, okay, well, I know he's super fast. So whether they say
Adjust. Yeah.
treachery and experience works better, right? As you get older, right? But
Yeah.
so
You get wiser.
that's the honing of the experience, right? You go, hey, I know this guy's fast off the line, so then you gotta you adjust your game. But if
Yeah. You
that's all
adjust
he
your game.
has
Yes.
is big power strikes and he's really fast, well, you can defeat him with your knowledge, your skill, your experience.
And that's the beauty of your training partners too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, when I was training, I had speaking of fast and quick and young, I had one of my Lameco brothers, Chris Cole, was a professional football player. So yeah, I would bet. I would love to tell you that in a race I might win, but if I was betting, I wouldn't bet on myself. I mean, he was fast, and you have different lengths, different body types, different skill sets. That with your sparring partners, that's going to teach you also to deal with all of that.
Yes.
So
And how to adjust. Yeah.
and how to adjust. Yeah.
Yeah, so that honing of your skill, that should be the goal from when you first start training, so that you're not relying on those youthful attributes.
Yeah.
That's very true.
I'm just gonna go a little bit one line here from those in the Philippines, especially the ones who are from the other islands. I actually speak very fluently Cebuano. So, kamusta mo? Kamusta na mo diya may gisuon? So, padayon lang to sa atong workout. All right, so I will let me translate that. I'm saying that in Cebuano, but the translation is that all you guys here are pretty boys too. So that's it.
Lawrence just basically said in Tagalog, it's very important. Ang importante gulang. Yeah.
Ganun. All right.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And there's also
Thanks, Danny.
it
Thanks,
looks
Danny.
like Brett said that he would like to come out and train. So reach out, and certainly welcome. I don't know where you're located or anything like that, but reach out to us. And the Zoom session is on Saturday, so anybody out there who would love to join, I highly recommend experiencing a mother-in-law rant.
Be prepared.
No, it's great. It's changed a lot of the way that I've viewed FMA and approached it. Thanks to Guro Roger, and also the added pleasure of having Master Ray, who's also had a huge influence on I think developing all of us as well. So thank you to both those two.
Yeah, there was even a time you and Hyle were actually trying the combinations that Master Ray has been teaching, and say it was Dragan. I saw some videos. Basically, the Dragan was also like trying it out.
Yep.
So
and we learned really quickly when we didn't do it right. Because I tried something and whack! What did I do?
Well, we take a lot of what Master Ray shows us, and then we try to add the Stig piece to it as well as when we're sparring.
Yeah.
And then we'll give feedback. Like, yeah, we tried that, but I got smacked. And he goes, well, that's because you did it like this. Okay. But yeah, I mean, it flows really well with the Astig. Master Ray has his techniques that really kind of show you how to learn specific angles and build the dexterity to go different angles and all that. And then when you apply it in a Astig fashion, then it all blends together really beautifully.
Yeah, it's more words to create paragraphs.
Yeah,
but it's the same novel, is what I would say.
Well, shout out to Paulo, who was here a while ago. So thank you, Paulo. This guy is a lot of very active in social media. Shares a lot of what he knows, what he has learned, and even propagates the expertise of others. So thank you for dropping by.
Paulo's been a good advocate of trying to apply the art. In his journey, at least he's taken the time to question some things and just figure out whether or not they work. I think that's a good thing, Paulo. I really like.
It's a good thing. He even questioned me. I think that he said that pretty boy Roger. That's no. I'm just kidding.
He said he wins. He's so pretty. I can't take my eyes off of him, and that's how I get hit.
It's
right?
Hard, it's hard to train.
No, actually, he has actually quite good contents, especially in trying to, I would say, presenting the more practical side of FMA as well, and how it works from different perspective. So,
well, that's kind of what we've been talking about. It's can you apply it in real time? There's a lot of things to learn, but can you actually use those techniques? Do they make sense? There's a lot of striking patterns that we don't really practice because you're not going to pull those off.
Yeah,
it's just not going to happen in a spar. So it's kind of the actual sparring techniques that you would use gets whittled down very, very slim.
Shout out to some of our friends here. Ace Ramirez from Guro Ace from New Jersey. Hello, brother. And I've seen your postings about your events as well. Congratulations and more power. You should be doing that a lot more because that's a well-earned skill and knowledge that you can share. Vagelis from Athens, a long-time practitioner of Lameco Astig in our Zoom from Athens. This guy had all the challenges you can imagine during pandemic. Not only did he lose the business, but he kept trying to still paying the rent, and it was already a challenge because there's no money coming in. Yet his equipment got stolen. Yes, yet here he is in FMA podcast and in my Zoom.
Yeah, he still does the Zoom.
Yeah, in Greece Blade right chapter. Oh my gosh, brother Vagelis, my brother. Thank you for your support and your spirit. You inspire me Kuya Steve Grody, my gosh, man, it's about time that we should hook up again. I look up to you as always, sir. Thank you, sir. And who else do we need to mention
Yeah,
here
I think
before
yeah,
the
we have
right? So,
quite a lot of people who joined us today.
yes.
So thank you very much,
Dan,
everybody, and also for
Dan
commenting.
from Pennsylvania.
We
Hey, Dan.
we should have pulled together
Lauren.
a small collaboration of videos of sparring. I think all of us have videos of us sparring online, just to kind of give a sense. There's not a lot of, like I said, there's not a lot of flow drills and all that kind of stuff. We try it out through our spars.
And there's always some great spar groups around too. I know in Los Angeles, if you reach out to Guro Roger, he'd be more than happy to host and have some people come train, come spar. I know up here in San Francisco we have Joselito, who has the Sabong Federation that you could reach out to. That's a really great group of guys up here, all different styles, just all kind of growing the art and propagating the art, and learning from putting it in motion.
We've had dozens of people here behind me.
Yeah, you can always come to Hyle's house too.
Come here and we'll swing.
Come for the sparring, go home with some training gear.
Yeah, prepare your credit cards. Okay, so guys,
I'll actually also my shameless plug here. I'm going to make him blush. Let's see how ready he gets. He makes some wonderful training swords here, Native Clan. I moved to Czech Republic, and I foolishly thought I'd be able to get rattan really easily. Who knew?
I won't. Yeah.
So I stopped bringing rattan and started bringing back Native Clan. And as he says, it's like getting a new purse. How many do you need? Different
so which
styles,
one is the Louis? Which
events.
one is the Louis Vuitton?
I don't know. This is the workhorse here. I think this is your day to day. That's your.
All right. So guys, I think we have answered the questions. We have basically talked about the topics. Before we wrap up this interview, how do people get to contact you when if they want to learn from you? So whether face to face, Zoom lessons, okay, how would they contact you? Let's start with Dragan.
Well, first of all,
Yeah, well,
go Gagi.
well, via Facebook works fine. I mean, just DM me, or if you're one of the many couples of people who read my blog, you can reach me through my blog. You'll end up in my email. So there you go.
Okay. Hyle and David.
Yeah, I'm also on all the social media as well. You'll see me under Hyle Campbell. There's not many of me, Hyle. I think it's probably me and my son. You'll find online. So I'm pretty unique, pretty easy to find, and also through Native Clan Training Blades. If you message me, which I have a lot of people do, usually set up things. People come out here, train with me here on a regular basis. A lot of drop-ins from around, especially people that have seen us sharing our spars online. They come out, they train. And I have my regular set of people that come out on Thursday nights. And then we train with Roger on Saturdays. So you can reach us through social media, Hyle Campbell.
Okay.
I guess me here. It's probably the easiest way to find me is to look for my number on the bathroom wall. I think is
for a good time call.
So no, social media or any of these guys can, they'll know how to get a hold of me as well. But on Facebook or Instagram, you can certainly find me there.
Dave,
yeah.
yeah.
Although you are in LA now, but basically
San Francisco,
you're
right? I travel a lot, so I'm around. But I live in Prague in the Czech Republic at this point in time. But I'm also back in the Bay Area all the time and in Los Angeles as well. So
there you go. And Guro Roger.
Well, the reason why we're all here is because through Facebook, so that's really not complicated. So reach out, ask a question. There's no silly question.
Yeah.
If this is your passion, this is my passion. To me, without any one of you guys, and I would say the same thing of what you feel. Without you guys, we're still going to be doing this, right? But with you in the mix, man, what a blessing. I would gladly, take you in our journey. as long as that decision is yours and no influence from others. It has to be your call, and it's really easy to get in touch. It's not complicated. I got my events coming up. I have the last two just between weeks from each other now, including MMA slash jiu-jitsu, right? And these guys compete and they do combative a lot in their game, but they're also opening their minds in the application of self-defense, but because of this negative publicity is coming out in what's happening in the street. And it's nothing invented. It is true all over, not only in the US, all over in the world. A lot of these bad guys are bad guys. And once again, these bad guys, man, they're immoral. They don't play fair. They're ahead of you by having a weapon. They're probably not just having a weapon, but they'll do you an ambush. So without you knowing, there's the element of surprise, which is very hard to really contend with. And there are multiple of them, they have bad intention. They won't respect you, they'll take you out. So therefore, that's why all these other systems are opening up to that, at least getting to have some sense of awareness on how to be able to do this, in some sense of training. And I was fortunate enough to be able to do this in different camps, no? So I have one coming up. That's the plugging. That's the
This one.
punch.
Yeah.
I have one coming up in here, Los Angeles, on November 19th, and that's part 2 of the combatives in self-defense with my Silat brother Alex Reyes, which we have a successful turnout and one hell of a great training and based on practical application. So we don't go for like no numbering system. The bad guy don't care about numbering system. So we just go for techniques, right? That is performance driven. So this is part 2 coming in November 19th. He's here in Los Angeles. And after that, I have one more in November, which will be with Kuya Lalo, of Mexico. I will be in Pachuca, Mexico. So what a journey. If I can bring you with me, by all means, man, what a joy and a blessing to have you in my journey. So let's keep an open mind and learning and no ranks here in the application aspect, and let's revert to hard work, because hard work gets into performance, but it's a question of good performance and good repetition.
Yeah.
So we need good coaches, and I have good coaches. And who are those good coaches? You guys. So thank you.
Yeah.
And you'll find
Peace
us
out.
online, Lameco Astig Combatives. You'll find us on Facebook.
Yeah.
So
There's a group there.
if you want to reach out and just drop a message, we'll reach out to you. And if you want to train, you're in the Bay Area, ping me. You're welcome up to my place. We'll swing sticks.
If you want a picture with my autograph,
Bring baby oil, I think, so you can show.
hey.
You can leave your OnlyFans address. Your OnlyFans address at the
Yeah, the
bottom.
OnlyFans service, the premium account.
There was somebody.
It's very easy to get in touch. Another thing, there's no excuse for you not to get in touch. How do I find you? No, call Roger for you. Okay,
Roger.
now Roger for you.
Roger.
There you go.
Yeah, there was somebody asking about sparring gear and what we use. Basically, gloves, and we make our own padded sticks here. That
Why do we make our own? Go tell them honestly. What is it?
because the other ones flex when you intercept, so you can't do a force on force intercept with the sort of sparring flexible sticks that are out there. So this is a piece of
and they break, and they cost a lot.
and they cost a
$30,
lot,
$40
too.
for shipping. They won't last long. So the thing is, get in touch with any of these guys.
Yeah,
because they'll teach you how to make that.
we can show you. But
Not
this
to put
is
down
basically
any of this of the business. Yeah, not to put down any of the business, but just to tell you, there's no excuse for not training. Somebody mentioned that a while ago. There's no excuse of not being able to do this, because you can do your own custom, but in the right way. If you need inputs, get in touch with any one of us,
Alright.
including Tom himself, who's been with us for more than 2 years.
Yep.
Right? There you go.
Yes.
Do I need to? Because somebody's gonna.
somebody-
John, David, what you're saying about the stick?
Oh,
the
just
padded
just reach out to us and we'll show you how we can teach you how to make them. That's where we've been here a while, so I think people are probably sick of us. Stephanie probably hung up a long time ago, logged out. I'm just gonna see if she's gonna text now. She messages us.
So,
We'll know she's here. If not, extra cardio.
Well,
Right,
why
Glenn
would we
said.
have,
So will there be
you
another
did mention the
interview?
beauty of Astig. That's Steph.
Thanks, Danny. Appreciate that. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Brett. My coach.
Yeah, I think
Brett.
there's should there
You,
be
you
a
actually use
second,
these,
a
Tom.
part two?
These are the ones we got to hit each other with.
Oh yeah, I
Satis.
do remember that.
Here, I'll hit him for you.
Okay, so I think that wraps up this interview. We might get we might get a second one. Um,
Maybe next time when you do an interview, we can do a little bit of how we do the actual
yeah,
training
that
itself
would be
through
great.
Zoom.
Yeah,
As a sample.
will be more
Because
demos.
all these guys, by the way, all of these guys, Gagi, Hyle, Dave, including Tom, and
So say,
others,
bring your own
actually,
partner then.
we rotate training.
Yeah.
So leading stuff.
Yeah.
If there's going to be a second chance, another
Of course,
opportunity,
definitely.
let's give them a little bit of a sample of how we do our training, right?
Yeah,
guys?
definitely.
It
That's
would
a
be
great
interesting
idea.
if we did
Okay, Hyle.
if we,
Okay, Hyle.
yeah, if we did a small session and then we could just kind of explain what we're doing. There you go.
There you go. There you go.
All right.
right.
Okay. So, I mean, in behalf
Blues
of
Brothers
the
meet
yeah,
Men in Black.
in behalf of FMA discussion, the moderators, and of course the CAO, Dim Franco, we would like to thank you guys for being our guest in this episode, episode 339. And apologies for dodging in and out because my internet is just really bad tonight. I don't know why, but thank you for holding the fort for me while I'm I'm basically like ducking out.
I guess Tom is the embodiment of what Bruce Lee called the elusive lead.
Yeah, listen,
And
Yeah,
thank
just
you, Kuya, for having us. Thank you for having us for the interview, and thank
always
you
a
to Dean.
pleasure, man. Always a pleasure.
thank you everybody that joined in.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank
Reach
you
out
guys.
if you have any questions, or if you want to join.
This, by the way, is a original
Yes.
cap directly coming from Edgar's
Wow.
original. So
Ah,
I'm just showing and sharing with you so that you'd be drooling and being envious.
Don't leave it out when I visit.
yeah, the next interview, I will be wearing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Thanks, Brett.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank
All
you.
right, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Again.
Thank you, guys.
Danny, Kuya Chad, bye. Take care.
Right.
Have a good one.
Hey.
See you in the next session.
Have a great day, mate.
Okay.
Close it out, I think.
No, it's him. He does it.
Right, guys. So thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching this podcast. And thank you again to the Lameco Astig crew, Guru Roger, Guru Hyle, Guru David, and Guru Dragan. So I'm not sure this week. As far as I'm concerned, next weekend I'll be interviewing Gina Lynn Hadia. If you remember the Fight Quest episode where they interviewed or they actually met a Filipina, okay, on the street, gave the stick, and then she whipped out the stick and do some thrilling action. That is Gina Lynn. So next weekend we are going to have her as our guest. So I hope you can join me in interviewing her. So once again, thank you very much, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the day. Have a nice week. This is Guru Tom Peña signing off.